Welcome, family, friends, and colleagues, and thank you for joining us this afternoon for this bittersweet occasion of celebrating retirement of our very own Dr. David Jolly. Dr. Jolly is a respected colleague, teacher, advocate, and mentor. And although the faculty, staff, and students here will miss our daily interactions with him, we are beneficiaries of his 18 years of loyal service to North Carolina Central University, and we have no doubt that he will continue to blaze trails as he begins this next chapter of his life with Royce and the rest of his family and friends. But we will definitely miss you. Dean Deborah Parker, she was unable to be with us this evening, and she was very sad about that, and she sends her regrets. But in her stead, she provided our reception for us. And Dr. Wortham, our Associate Dean for the College of Behavior and Social Sciences, will bring greetings on her behalf. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Seronda. I'm the Chair of the Department of Public Health Education here at North Carolina Central University. And welcome again, and thank you for joining us. Dean Wortham.
College of Behavior and Social Sciences, we do welcome you all here and bring greetings, and it is indeed a bittersweet occasion. Dr. Jolly, you have given tremendous service to this university, and for that we are most appreciative. When I think back over all the things that you've been involved in, you and I have been here for quite a long time, and so we've seen a lot of changes and a lot of growth in the institution. But the thing that I think that are constants when I see you and I see what you have provided for the university, strong leadership, caring spirit, collegiality, those are things that come to mind. You're respected by your, you're respected in the college and in the university. You're respected among faculty and students and friends. That's something that's earned. It doesn't just happen. And so we are so thankful that we can be here today and celebrate this with you. When I think back of your service, as I say, as chair, faculty, research, student mentoring, there's so many things that we could list here. Being able to star in your own feature film. To have one more thing, it's really good. But when I think about the way I remember you and your contributions to this university, is you were always willing to step up and do what needs to be done and needed to be done, no matter how much time you had to do it. And I've seen you here at late hours many times, and you got the job done. And so thank you for that kind of commitment. That requires a lot of dedication, a lot of love for what you do to do that. So thank you for that. I also remember being in meetings with you, and you can always ask a good question. That is so helpful at times. Persons oftentimes are afraid to say something, but you could always ask a good question. We appreciate that. We'll miss that. And then finally, I think everyone in this room can attest to this, your kindness and gentleness of spirit will be deeply missed.
At this time, we will have a spoken word presentation from Ms. Nia Sutton, a 2005 graduate of the Department of Public Health. I'm sorry, 2015.
honor somebody like Dr. Jolly. He's an amazing guy, and I hope that you enjoy this poem that I wrote. An ode to Dr. Jolly. Dr. Jolly. When you hear his name, you think of a happy-go-lucky, all-smiles kind of guy. Well, at least that's what I thought when I enrolled into his public health policy course. But, of course, before I got to meet him, I heard about him. Dr. Jolly don't play. He will fail you. You gotta be on top of it in his class. Lord, what did I get into? Have my entire 3 years in this department been a waste just when I thought I was going to graduate? So, here we are. It's the first day of class, and Dr. Jolly's rolling in with his cart in hand. You can do it, Nia. I continue to encourage myself, but as he walked up on this stage, I admit I started to sweat. I mean, he is Dr. Jolly. He's the man. He not only gives out F's, he was the department of the chair. He was the chair of the department. I mean, Dr. Jolly is public health. Tobacco use, HIV prevention, public health policy. My classmates failed to mention that he was a genius and many hats he wears. But most importantly, my classmates forgot to mention that Dr. Jolly cared. He cared about our grades and about our success. He cared about our future and that he only wanted the best. So I guess that explains all of the forwarded emails about summer internships and all of the reading assignments and the no multiple choice quizzes. Dr. Jolly is amazing and he has given us so much. So this ode to him may not be enough, but here's a big thank you from the department, from Durham, from NCCU, and Project State. We know that you'll go on and continue to be great. Thank you.
I think we suddenly about summed up Dr. Jolly. And clearly she wasn't one of the ones that got help. But Nia named a few of the many hats that Dr. Jolly wears, and as you can see here in his biography, even though I think she gave a better biography of him, he has been employed in many areas. He's been a counselor, an elementary school teacher, an AIDS educator and consultant, program manager, a faculty member, and the department chair. And in just a moment, you're going to hear reflections from some of the many people with whom he walked and whose lives he touched during his time here and during these many jobs. But before I call him forward, I would like to take a moment of personal privilege to give my reflections on Dr. Jolly. And when I first came, like Nia, I thought, ooh, it's going to be a challenge working with Dr. Jolly, because he was very much on point. But I really appreciated that because he gave me a lot of guidance. And being someone in my position, you may not know, but I have 3 of my former chairs working under me now with me as chair. But of course, Dr. Jolly is one with whom I have the most in common. Isn't it obvious, you know, younger black female, older white male. But no, Dr. Jolly and I, we kind of think alike about a lot of things. He's the only other person that can help me teach the epidemiology course, for one thing. And when it comes to editing the students' papers, he and I kind of think alike there. And just with some of the issues arise, you know, I go and I say, Dr. Jolly, can you believe this? And he say, no, but it was worse for me. But he has been very encouraging, very supportive. You know, he helped to groom me as a leader. And, you know, when strange things happen, you know, sometimes I take a punch from left field and can't believe those things happen. And Dr. Jolly would give me a call and say, are you okay? Yeah. He was like, yeah, that type of thing happened and he's like, well, just hang in there. And he said, you're doing very well. You're handling things very well. When I'm not feeling well, he'll call and check on me just to make sure I'm okay. I think he's making sure I'm going to stay in position. He won't have to step back into it. But really, I really appreciate you, Dr. Jolly. I'm really going to miss you, and I wish you much success. And at this time, we're going to hear reflections as they're printed on your program. So I'm going to start with Dr. Theodore Tej Harris, followed by Ms. Tanya Bass, Mrs. Zion Brooks, Dr. Vic Schoenbach, Ms. Tia Marie Dotsey, Ms. Carissa Dixon, Dr. Bronwyn Lucas, and Mr. Roy Spartan. Okay, so if you would just come forward in that order. And I think Dr. Monty has already given you your time limit, so don't make her have to do that.
I remember meeting him working on a project called the AIDS Index, a project that I had read and had on my shelf as an undergraduate student. And here I am sitting at a table with him, Steve Sherman, and a few other HIV advocates and policymakers, freaking out inside, as I often do because I get starstruck really easy. And now I'm working alongside this great man. I remember the first time having a real personal conversation with him, and I just reminded him the other day. We were walking to a non-state funded parking lot full of gravel, a parking lot in which I twisted my ankle, but that's another story. And we were walking together, and he told me that he was now moving to NCCU, which is my alma mater. And I was very excited to know he'd be working in the Department of Public Health Education. Second part, Project SAVE. So now here's Dr. Jolly at NCCU, and he's still working and advocating in the area of HIV and AIDS, and he helped establish, along with members of the Durham County Health Department, Project SAVE, the first HIV/STD pre-education project on an HBCU campus, and he shared his vision and his commitment. When I came here as a full-time staff member in the Counseling Center, Student Health and Counseling, he allowed me to join him as a co-advisor in Project SAVE and allowed me to have creativity with the peer educators as well as fun. Very exciting. Now, I will speak on behalf of the Alumni Committee. Dr. Jolly is committed to public health. I think she said, Dr. Jolly is public health. I never had him as a teacher, but I hear all the other undergraduate students talking about how challenging and fun this class is. Dr. Jolly and I have a strange Facebook relationship. He's not on Facebook very often. However, he will forward me many of the jobs that you see posted on Facebook if I haven't posted them already. So sometimes there will be a double post, or he'll send me an email saying, hey, I think this is worthy of posting on Facebook. And I was like, I know, already did. In terms of mentoring, Dr. Jolly has been a mentor for many, and he is one of my role models and mentors. And I like to believe that I have his spirit in my heart when it comes to undergraduate students. And then personally, Dr. Jolly served on my thesis committee. Yikes. So you're talking about edits and data, but what's so cool about my thesis is I was a little lazy, and Dr. Jolly let me use his data as a way to collect more data and write my master's thesis. And my marriage. Dr. Jolly knows Daryl, and I know Rick. And so we're like family. And this is why this is difficult for me, because we are like family. There's nothing that I haven't shared with Dr. Jolly in regards to my personal benefits. He's always encouraged me. He's always encouraged me, even when it seemed like the most foolish professional move ever, like quitting a job when you don't have one. So I stand here kind of emotional because I really do love you, and I'm going to miss you. And I hope we stay in contact forever. And I had a quote, but now I'm all emotional, but it says, retirement is a time to enjoy all the things you never had time to do when you worked. Thank you. Got some ginger cream.
So I just want to first start by saying that it's really difficult to be here because whenever I come to Denver, or from Denver, whenever I come to Durham, Dr. Jolly is the first person that knows that I'm here. So this time I couldn't really do that. So the things I'm going to say are pretty personal, I think, with most people, but I'm hoping that it will resonate with folks here. So when Dr. Robinson reached out to me about being here today, there wasn't really a question that I would show up. It would be ridiculous to not show up for a person that has consistently showed up for me, whether that is academically, professionally, and at times emotionally. And along with the rest of the Department of Public Health here, Dr. Raleigh is incredibly giving and loving and supportive. And the work that he has done here speaks volumes to his commitment to student success and lifelong learning. He started out as my professor, and I had many of the same feelings in his health policy class. But he became my mentor, and at times he was and still is a father figure. And I'm most happy to consider him my friend. So enjoy your retirement. I love you. Here we go. Back to you.
This is a real honor and a pleasure. I'd heard about David Jolly for years before I met him in person. And in the 90s, many of you may remember there was a report from the Institute of Medicine on the future of public health, which talked about how one of the big problems in academic public health is that the people who were teaching there didn't have any experience. And I could identify that because I'd never worked in public health. So David Jolly, of course, is very different from that because he worked in public health for 15 years, I think it was, before he became an academic public health person. So he's not alone in that regard, certainly among you, but for me, that was pretty impressive. I also had a surprise about David Jolly when I was reading some things to prepare for coming here today, and that is how old he is. Every time I saw David over the past decade or so, he's full of youthful enthusiasm. He got his doctoral degree in 1993. So I thought, oh yeah, okay, so he finished high school probably in the late 70s, and then went to college. How could he be retiring already? So that was very, very impressive. The other surprise I had about David was, I don't know how many of you have seen that the Surgeon General has now become or the new Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, is an advocate of meditation. In fact, on his Facebook page, he has a post of himself sitting, meditating with a group of students at a middle school in San Francisco where all the kids practice transcendental meditation. So at some point, David revealed to me that he actually had learned transcendental meditation. And I'm thinking, wow, you know, a department of public health education, an academic department where the chair knows transcendental meditation, that's remarkable. And then I realized that there are actually two chairs of the Department of Public Health Education at NC Central who have learned transcendental meditation. So this is really a remarkable outlier, and I think in the forefront, and with the new Surgeon General, something that you'll all be able to be celebrating. So I wanted to give David a copy of Transcendence to inspire him to go back to his TM, and also a little souvenir flashlight, Epidemiology for Enlightenment.
I brought my notes so that I can stay to the 2.5-minute time mark. Oh God, I thank you for the lanterns in my life who illuminated dark and uncertain paths, calmed and stilled debilitating doubts and fears with encouraging words, wise lessons, gentle touches, firm nudges, and faithful actions along my journey of life and back to you. Marion Wright Elderman. David Jolly. You have served as a lantern by encouraging, enriching, informing, and helping to shape the lives of so many students. I celebrate your leadership, scholarship, and your unwavering commitment to access, diversity, and inclusion. I had the opportunity to meet you at a Creating Open Lives and Organizing for Real Success Colors meeting back in 2005. As you know, Colors is a student-led organization for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning queer, and allied students and alumni. Over the years, while you served as an advisor for Colors, I observed you pour so much of yourself into the students. You modeled what it means to be out, an activist, and a social justice advocate. Before there was the LGBTA Resource Center, there was David Jolly. Community members, students, faculty, and staff would refer LGBTQIA students to you for resource and support and guidance. You have served on the Empowerment Committee, marched with students in pride parades, stayed late nights, and helped plan the LGBT Awareness Week, listened to students who could not talk to their family members about the challenges they were facing, and written hundreds of recommendation letters for students to attend the LGBTA Leadership Institutes and camps. You are an icon of integrity and hard work. Your achievement and outstanding leadership qualities are worthy of illumination. Therefore, in 2014, the LGBTA Resource Center established the David Jolly Lavender Leadership Award to be given to a student and or faculty or staff who has served as a role model, inspired others to action, and actively demonstrated concern and caring for other students and the community. The staff member receiving this award elevates the equality and status of LGBT people on campus, increases the visibility of LGBT experiences and issues on campus, mentors students by helping to create and participating in career and academic mentoring for LGBT people on campus, contributes to the generation and dissemination of knowledge on LGBT health, well-being through education, research, and public presentation, promotes and advances the admission, recruitment, and upward mobility of LGBT people on campus. David, your impact is far-reaching. It has been a joy to work with you, and particularly someone so passionate, calm, and professional all the time. To say you will be missed seems like such an understatement. You are one of those rare people who instantly become a friend instead of just a colleague. There are no words to truly reflect how much I will miss working with you, and I value our friendship, and I hope that your new endeavors will be as far-reaching as the ones you've had so far. Thank you, and I look forward to staying in touch. I was going to say I'm going to stalk you on Facebook, but you're not on Facebook as much. I hope to see you more on there now that you're retiring.
Hi, I'm Carissa Dixon, and I bring greetings on behalf of first the North Carolina Beauty and Barbershop Advisory Board, which remember that, and Dr. Laura Lenan from UNC, who's the co-PI for all of the great work that we've done in beauty salons and barbershops throughout North Carolina, and I'm the project manager for a lot of that work. So when I first came to UNC, before leaving my previous job, I worked a lot in breast cancer research, and when I told them that I was leaving for UNC, they weren't happy about that, but then when they found out, one of the people I worked with was Lourdes Suarez, who had worked with David previously in HIV AIDS world, and so she said, I'm mad, but I'm happy you're going with David because you'll be in good hands. So before I knew him as a person, I knew about his reputation and his work and his passion, so I was really excited about coming to join him in the work that we've been doing. one of the things that with the work we've done in barbershops and beauty salons, primarily in barbershops recently, is that in addition to myself, a lot of the research assistants are female. So during the week, we come up with great ideas on what we thought would work in barbershops. And we had a female consensus of what made sense. And then we get on our phone in our operations meeting, and David would bring his perspective in and say, that won't necessarily work. So it was great to have his perspective. He always asked the right questions, things that we could not have thought of, and we greatly appreciate that, and I'm sure all of the barbershop customers did too, to have that perspective. I also have worked with David as a preceptor for the Partners Program, and the students that he has assigned to our projects have just given a wealth of access to the projects and being in the community. And it's been great to see their perspective and see their eyes open to the world of public health outside of the classroom. So thank you, David, for continuing to call on me on those days of, I got one more. You really want to do this because it's been valuable for us. It's been great for them as well as the community. So we will continue that relationship. We've also hired research assistants to continue that work. So we look forward for that to continue in your absence. And last but not least, I will say I will hold you to your promise that depending on the election results in November, I'll be packing up my hair dryer and my air mattress and heading for the north border. So Royce, make room for a corner. My family and I may be heading your way soon. Thank you, David, for everything.
Good afternoon. When I was invited to Dr. Jolly's retirement, I thought to myself, there's nothing that can prevent me from coming here to spend a special time with him, celebrating his life and legacy. Later that day, when I was asked to make a few brief remarks, I enthusiastically replied with one word, yes. I've known Dr. Jolly for about 15 years, and I believe that our manner of meeting was somewhat destined or fate. When I first moved to North Carolina in the 1990s, he was working for the HIV/AIDS hotline. We knew so many people in common, yet he and I had never met. Dr. Jolly grew up just outside New Haven, Connecticut in Bridgeport. I grew up in New Haven, just a couple miles down the road. I was born in Massachusetts. Dr. Jolly spent a great deal of time in Massachusetts, studying at the University of Amherst, and I was at Amherst College, again, just miles down the road. When I moved to Durham, North Carolina, I moved into a small house on a small street. I later learned that Dr. Jolly lived on the same street as me, and still we had never met. It wasn't until years later, when I was hired to work in Durham County with teens and tobacco use prevention, that I met Dr. Jolly, and we've shared a deep mutual respect for each other since the first day we met. Today I want to celebrate his legacy and honor him by sharing with you all 3 words that come to mind when I think about him. Vision. When I was 28 and a single parent to a 2-year-old son, I had the wild idea to leave the stability of a job and start a nonprofit. He encouraged me to leave my job too. The nonprofit called Youth Empowered Solutions, or YES, has a focus on authentic youth engagement as a means to change public health policy. In 2007, I approached Dr. Jolly to see if he would serve as a founding board member. I remember being so nervous, and I was shocked when he accepted. He accepted because he has a genuine passion for social justice, and he saw something in me then that I didn't know I had at the time. Dr. Jolly worked tirelessly on this board, taking almost every leadership role possible, from vice president to chairing committees. He served on the board for about 8 years, during which time the nonprofit grew from a fledgling organization to a national nonprofit with offices across North Carolina and Washington, D.C., impacting hundreds of thousands of teens and changing over 100 policies, locally and nationwide. In the middle of his term, his mom became sick. He asked for a leave of absence, which we granted. He wanted to spend more time with his mom. Several months later, he reached back out to me to share with me that his beloved mom had passed away, and he was ready to come back onto the board to complete his board term. I remember feeling a mixture of sadness for his loss, but glory that he was able to spend the time he needed with his mom. I also remember thinking how virtuous it was to actually come back to a nonprofit board service, to the nonprofit board. Nonprofit board service is not easy, and he chose to come back both because he had made a commitment and because that passion was still burning within him. He also came back because he believed in me. The second word is humility. I've known Dr. Jolly for 15 years, and over the course of the time, we've had hundreds, maybe even thousands of conversations. Each one starts with him telling me to call him David. But clearly I have a hard time doing that. Imagining the hard work and dedication that those letters, DR, represent in front of his name. Dr. Jolly is a silent leader. He doesn't accept accolades, and you won't find him in the spotlight, but his presence is always felt. He's incredibly smart and strategic. Dr. Jolly is the one working behind the scenes to write a proposal to get funding, to make a connection, or to encourage a student. He is quiet yet powerful, and an admirable quality of a servant leader. The staff at Youth Empowered Solutions, both the adult staff and the high school staff, have commented on his humility as well. Dr. Jolly is an accomplished professor, researcher, and activist, but is down to earth and comfortable wherever he is. The word that high school students have used to describe him is humble. Over the course of our relationship, Dr. Jolly has met my parents several times. My dad is an alumni of North Carolina Central, a Golden Eagle. My dad loves having the opportunity to talk with Dr. Jolly, reminisce, and hear how things have changed at NCCU. Every time after they talk, my dad mentions to me the humility he sees in Dr. Jolly. My dad is grateful that there have been people in my life that have believed in me and supported my dreams. The final quality is admiration. To know Dr. Jolly is to admire and respect Dr. Jolly. Dr. Jolly has committed his career to being a social justice warrior. He has been sought after by other institutions and agencies, but never turned his back on NCCU. I